Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. If you are a Christian entrepreneur looking to grow your business, make an impact, and do it all with your faith at the center, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into something I know so many entrepreneurs wrestle with, and that's how to take action when you don't feel ready. So you've got a big idea, maybe it's a course or a podcast or a new social media strategy or a new offer, but you're stuck because you don't feel ready yet. You don't feel like it's perfect yet. Maybe you're just waiting for like the perfect timing, the perfect script, the perfect moment. Let me just tell you, the perfect moment never comes. But here's the thing, God uses us in spite of our imperfections. So in this episode, we're going to unpack 3 practical steps to taking imperfect action in your business, and we'll back it up with some of my stories plus scripture as well. Okay, so I have had to take massive imperfect action. I mean, I feel like that's what the past like 15 years have been really of not knowing what, like, it's like you see the one step in front of you, but you don't see beyond that. You know what I mean? So it's like you take the one step and then you're just like, all right, what do we do now? What's the next step? But we have to take that first one in order to get to the next one. And God starts to open doors for us. And we're just like, whoa. And then we look back and we're like, how did we get here? It's because we started being obedient and taking step like that first step that God puts in front of us, right? And so, man, I could tell you story after story in my business of not feeling ready. It was like every time I launched a new program, launched an offer, put myself out there, as little as like starting this podcast, hello, I did not feel ready at all. I was like, who's going to listen? Who, like, nobody cares what I have to say. Like all those things, like the negative chatter that's going through your head, and you're just like, I don't know. But I decided to do it anyways. And man, when God calls you to do something and you step out in faith and you're obedient, He blesses that. In ministry, they sent us out to actually like do teaching and equipping, and they're the lead pastor of this was like, hey Rachel, you're gonna do the impartation service tonight. And I'm like, wait, what? Me? I've never done that before. Wait, are you sure? And so I was like, okay. I'm going to get as ready as I can in the next, like, I had like 2 hours to prepare for the service that I was going to be leading. And I'm like, okay, I have an hour to, like, I need to fill an hour's worth of time. And God, I need you to show up. So I'm going to do everything that I know to do. And Lord, what do you want to do here? And it was so amazing. Not because of me, because God just like honored that obedience and showed up in such a powerful way. And to see him touch these people, like it was so cool. But you have to say yes, and you have to step out, and you have to be willing to step out, even though you're not ready and at all. Not ready at all. You have to just start small and take that first step and trust God's timing. So you don't have to do like with your business. It's not you're doing everything at once. Small steps really build momentum. So like when I started this podcast, hello, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I'm like, okay, I saw the strategy of having 3 episodes. I'm like, all right, I'm going to start with one. This is what I think I'm supposed to do. And I'm just going to hit publish. And, hundreds of thousands of downloads later, and getting to meet so many cool people and impact so many lives just through this, like not even talking about some of our courses, like all these things that we've done. It's been so cool, but you have to actually like press play. You have to actually step out. You have to actually do the thing, even if you don't feel ready or unqualified. Like think about Moses in Exodus 3 and 4. So God's calling him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. And Moses is like, you sure you got the right person? I'm not a good speaker. I'm not qualified. Man, that sounds so familiar. Like You just have to say yes. And when you start to say yes and you start to rely on the Lord and you're just obedient, and I'm like, God, you just have my yes. I don't necessarily want to do the thing. And now, like, now that I'm saying yes to things and God's showing up, I'm getting like, my church is giving me more like opportunities and responsibilities and a microphone. And I'm just like, huh, I want to be like in the back corner by myself. Like, I don't want to. But God has my yes. So I'm like, okay, if you want me to do this, Lord, I will do it and I will be obedient. But that's really, you have to step out in faith and trust in your obedience. So, action step for you is pick one small, it doesn't have to be big. It's really the small thing that you could do today. So it could be for you, it might look like starting like drafting an episode of a podcast or sending out an email or creating a pin on Pinterest or an Instagram story, whatever it is for you, but one thing. So I want you just to pause and think like, what's one thing I could do today to help me get momentum? And so you can sit with the Lord on this of like, all right, God, this is the vision that you've given me. This is what I know like I'm called to do. What does it look like practically today? Like what's the small action step that I can do today? Step two is to reframe failure as growth. And so once you start taking action, trust me, it's never going to be perfect ever. You have to understand that failure is a part of the process. It's a part of the journey, and you never arrive at like you don't have this like final destination where you're like, all right, I'm done. Like you're gonna fail every step of the way. John Maxwell's book Failing Forward was such a good read. And I've read this like over a decade ago, but it really puts things into perspective of like people that maybe you have looked up to as leaders that I'm telling you the journey isn't like this. It's like this is where you're just like, all right, maybe they got like they saw like a little bit of success and then they fell on their face and then they saw a little bit of success. But I'm telling like every person has had like a failed launch or like something they thought was going to go really well and then they fell on their face, and it really is a part of it. And if you just start to look at failure as feedback, you're going to start to actually like get excited if you fail of like, well, I tried that and it didn't really work, but that's okay because I learned X, Y, and Z. And so that's really what you have to do. So actually pursue failure because it's when you fail and you actually try something big and you step out of the boat. That's when you start to see success, right? And so think about Peter when he's stepping out of the boat. He's walking on water, which is bold, like he's doing the bold thing, but he gets scared. He takes his eyes off of Jesus and he starts to sink. But Peter didn't fail because he stepped out of the boat. He failed when he let fear take over and he took his eyes off of Jesus. So I want you just to reframe failure as growth. And so I want you to think of like things maybe that you tried in the past, and maybe you like internalize that failure of like, oh no, better not try that again. Think about what you learned from it and how it helped you grow. And those lessons, if you learn from them, is just gold. And then step three is surrender perfection to God. So, perfectionism is a trap that keeps us stuck. It keeps us small. It keeps us from making the impact that we are supposed to have on this planet. I have, thank God, gotten over any perfectionism that I have had, but I have worked with thousands of clients over the years. That they're just like stuck and they're waiting and they're like trying to tweak every little blog post and making sure it's absolutely perfect and tweaking every single little thing because it has to be perfect. And when you give yourself permission just to show up and to do it imperfectly, that's when you're going to start to grow. Okay. So let's look at Esther in the Bible. She was called to save her people, but she didn't feel ready. Like I'm just thinking of like, wow, like think of the boldness that came out of her. I'm sure she felt scared or unsure, but she acted anyways. And she stepped into her purpose for such a time as this and trusting God's timing and trusting God to work through her imperfections, and he did. And so your action step is just to start. Just to start, just to do the thing. Maybe create a deadline for yourself and say, like, all right, I know I'm called to do this thing. This is the deadline I'm setting for myself to get it done. Find somebody to hold you accountable and act in obedience. If God is called to do it and you're not doing it because you're fearful, you're stuck in perfectionism, it's actually disobedience. Okay. So we need to actually step out of the boat, do the thing that God has called us to do. So let's recap. To embrace imperfect action, you need to start small and trust God's timing, reframe failure as growth, and surrender perfection to God. And just remember, you don't need to feel ready to make an impact. I don't think there's ever been a moment I have actually felt ready. Every single time I'm like, are you sure? Do I need to? I don't want to. You just step out and do it anyways. Anytime I've been like speaking on a stage, I'm like, eh, I'm scared. But then I like reframe it in my mind. I'm like, you're not scared, you're excited. It feels the same way. Just go and do the thing. So God's giving you everything that you need. If He's called you to do it, you step out of the boat, you step out in faith. And so my challenge for you is, what's one thing you've been delaying because it's not perfect yet? So maybe it's recording your first podcast episode, launching a course, posting something on Instagram, like actually creating a reel, whatever it is, share it with me on Instagram at She's Making an Impact. And I want to help cheer you on. And if you're ready just to dive in deeper and understand, your identity in the Lord, just go to rachelngom.com/who God says I am. And I have a free download for you. It's a free audio that's going to actually help you rewire your mind so you understand and really internalize your identity as a child of God. So thank you for being here. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with a friend, leave a review, tag me on social at She's Making an Impact. And I can't wait to see how you're taking imperfect action. And we'll see you next time. Bye.